Chloe thought the dark web legend was just another internet myth. As a game designer, she spent her nights hunting for digital anomalies in the neon-lit isolation of her Tampa apartment. But when her monitor glitched, revealing a strange, blurred QR pattern, curiosity quickly turned into creeping paranoia. She tried to scan the code, but her phone camera refused to focus. Then, a push notification shattered the silence, displaying her exact street address alongside a ticking countdown timer. The digital ghost knew exactly where she lived. With the cursor moving on its own, Chloe realized the urban legend was no longer just a story. It was a trap, and she had just activated it. The cooling fans hummed a steady mechanical drone in the dark Tampa apartment, vibrating through the wooden floorboards and rattling the empty coffee mugs on the desk. Chloe sat bathed in the cold, neon glow of her dual monitors, her eyes tracing lines of code for a new game design. The physical world outside her window ceased to exist, replaced by the endless scroll of data and the quiet hum of the city sleeping beyond the glass. She was deep in the digital trenches, hunting for anomalies and testing the boundaries of the engine. Suddenly, the primary screen flickered. The vibrant colors collapsed into a harsh, static gray. A strange pattern emerged from the noise. It was a blurred QR code, its edges smeared and distorted like a digital scar. Chloe leaned closer, her curiosity piqued by the impossible geometry. She grabbed her phone and opened the camera app, aiming it at the screen. The lens hunted for focus, the autofocus square pulsing wildly, but the image remained stubbornly unreadable. "A rendering bug," she muttered, rubbing her tired eyes. "Just a strange rendering bug." Before she could minimize the window, a push notification slid across the top of the screen. The text was stark white against a black banner. It displayed her exact street address, followed by a countdown timer ticking down from 60 minutes. The breath caught in her throat. The digital ghost knew where she lived. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She reached for the mouse to close the window, but the cursor refused to obey. It dragged itself across the screen, moving with a deliberate, mocking slowness. The system locked her out, freezing the interface in a state of absolute digital paralysis. The countdown continued its relentless descent. 59 minutes. 58. A sudden audio chime echoed from the desktop speakers. It was a voice message from Cameron, the bartender at her local spot. The audio was crisp, but the background noise was wrong. Instead of the clinking glasses and low murmur of the bar, the audio carried the distinct, high-pitched whine of her own apartment cooling fans. The voice was an algorithmic mimicry, a perfect spoof designed to isolate her. Panic set in. She could not lock the system out of her own machine. She hissed the words into the empty room, the sound swallowed by the heavy silence of the night, her hands shaking as she slammed the power button. The screen went black, but the offline monitor still displayed the faint, ghostly outline of the blurred QR code, burning into the phosphors. The trap was active, and the countdown was already claiming her sanity. The afternoon sun offered no warmth, only a harsh, exposing glare that made Chloe squint as she pushed open the heavy wooden door of the art studio. She was desperate to escape the suffocating, neon-lit tomb of her apartment. The air inside smelled heavily of linseed oil and turpentine, a sharp physical contrast to the sterile ozone tang of her fried motherboard. She needed a physical anchor. She needed to prove the real world was still intact. Rory stood by a massive easel near the window, wiping cerulean paint from his hands with a stained rag. He smiled, completely oblivious to the dark circles bruising the skin under her eyes, and remarked that she looked like she had seen a ghost. He stepped aside to reveal his latest canvas, joking that he had painted one for her. Chloe stepped closer, her breath hitching in her throat. The canvas was a chaotic swirl of abstract shadows, but dominating the center was a distinct geometric distortion. It was a blurred QR code, its smeared edges rendered in thick, aggressive strokes of charcoal and crimson. The thick charcoal and crimson paint seemed to pulse under the fluorescent lights, mocking her attempt to escape the digital realm. It was the exact digital scar that had burned itself into her offline monitor just hours ago. The sunlit sanctuary suddenly felt like a cage. The urban legend was not confined to the dark web. It was bleeding into the physical world. Chloe demanded to know where he had seen this exact pattern, her voice trembling as she pointed a shaking finger at the canvas. Rory shrugged, tossing the rag onto a cluttered table. He explained it was just a weird glitch on a digital billboard downtown.
noting the screen kept looping it and it looked like modern art. He asked for an explanation regarding her sudden panic. Chloe stared at the painted code, her mind racing. The stalker was not just hacking her network. They were mapping her physical movements through analog reflections, projecting the trap into the real world to see who would react. It was not a billboard, she whispered, the realization chilling her to the bone. It was a trap, and it was following her. Rory's smile faded, his eyes darting from her pale face to the canvas, asking for clarification. Before she could answer, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. She pulled it out. The screen was black, save for a single, pulsing notification. It was a live camera feed. The angle was high, looking down through the studio skylight. The timestamp ticked forward in real time, each second a heavy reminder of her exposure. They were not just tracking her digital footprint anymore. They were watching her, right now.
Trembling, panic overrode logic. Chloe grabbed a heavy wooden palette knife from the cluttered table and drove it straight through the center of the canvas. The thick charcoal and crimson paint tore with a sickening rip, exposing the bare wooden frame beneath. Splinters dug into her palm, but the physical pain was a welcome distraction from the creeping dread. She panted, waiting for the oppressive feeling to lift, but the studio's silence only deepened into something suffocating. The smell of turpentine suddenly felt sharp and chemical, burning her nostrils. Dust motes danced in the fading light, indifferent to her terror. Her phone vibrated violently against her thigh. She pulled it out. The black screen flickered, instantly resolving into the exact same smeared geometric distortion she had just destroyed. The digital and physical tracking were perfectly synchronized. Destroying the physical reflection did not break the link, it only updated the feed. The entity was adapting in real time, learning her physical reactions through the very tools she used to fight back. Then the phone rang. The caller ID flashed the name of the bartender. Relief warred with terror in her chest. She swiped to answer, pressing the device to her ear. "Cameron," she whispered, her voice shaking in the quiet room. "Hey, Chloe." "She sounds spooked," the voice replied. It was his exact cadence, the familiar, easygoing drawl. But beneath the words, the background audio was entirely wrong. There were no clinking glasses, no low murmur of the Friday crowd. Instead, the audio carried the distinct, high-pitched whine of the studio cooling fans and the faint rustle of her own leather jacket. The acoustic fingerprint was a perfect match for her current environment, proving the microphone was listening through the very device she held. "Where is the bar?" she asked, backing away from the shredded canvas, her sneakers squeaking against the hardwood floor. "Just at the counter, waiting for Chloe," the voice said smoothly. Then a perfectly looped sound of ice clinking against glass played in the background, repeating on a flawless 3-second delay. It was an algorithmic mimicry. The stalker was not just watching, the entity was spoofing trusted contacts to isolate her completely, stripping away every potential ally. The physical world offers no hiding spots when the digital shadow knows every reflection, the voice stated, the casual bartender tone suddenly dropping into a cold, detached monotone. The call disconnected. The studio shadows lengthened as the late afternoon sun dipped below the window frame. Chloe stared at the phone. Her devices were no longer tools. They were weapons pointed directly at her. Paralyzed by the realization that both digital and physical realities were compromised, she had to make a choice. Answer the next fake call and play along, or flee into the analog blind spots before the countdown reached 0. The studio's silence was a lie. The phone was a live wire, broadcasting terror to an unseen architect. The spoofed voice still echoed in her ears, a cold, algorithmic mockery. Paranoia crystallized into a sharp, survival-driven clarity. She could not outrun a signal, but she could break the receiver. She lunged toward the work table, her fingers closing around the heavy, bristle-caked handle of a large paintbrush. The phone buzzed again, the screen flashing with a new stream of data, mapping exact coordinates. "Is the location data not enough?" she screamed, her voice tearing through the humid air. She brought the wooden handle down hard, the glass shattered with a sharp, satisfying crunch. She struck it again and again until the screen was a spiderweb of dead pixels and the buzzing finally ceased. Shards of glass bit into her knuckles, but she ignored the sting. She dropped the ruined device onto the paint-splattered floor. The live feed was dead. The digital tether was severed. "The cord is cut," she said to the empty room, her chest heaving, "and the ghost is going into the dark too."
She did not wait for Rory to return from the hallway. She grabbed the car keys from the table, the metal biting into her palm, grounding her in the physical world. The countdown on the destroyed phone was gone, but the ticking in her head remained. She pushed through the heavy wooden door and out into the suffocating embrace of the Tampa evening. The air outside was thick, heavy with the scent of salt and decaying vegetation. The neon glow of the city faded behind her as she sprinted toward the edge of the property, her breath burning in her lungs. The manicured lawns gave way to the dense, tangled roots of the coastal mangroves. This was the analog blind spot. No Wi-Fi, no cell towers, just the chaotic, unscripted geometry of nature. She plunged into the shallow, brackish water, the mud sucking at her sneakers. The humidity clung to her skin like a second layer. She navigated by the fading twilight, pushing through the dense curtain of aerial roots. Every snapping twig made her flinch. Every rustling leaf sounded like a footstep. She had broken the digital link. She was off the grid. But as she paused to catch her breath in the deepening shadows of the swamp, a faint mechanical hum vibrated through the water against her ankles. It was not the wind. It was not an animal. It was the steady, rhythmic whine of a drone motor, cutting through the humid night air, its red sensor eyes sweeping the canopy just above her head. The stalker had not just tracked the phone. The entity had anticipated the escape route.
The drone's mechanical whine faded into the humid canopy, swallowed by the vast, breathing silence of the Tampa mangroves. Chloe sank deeper into the brackish water, the thick mud cooling her feverish skin. Above, the pale moonlight fractured through the tangled aerial roots, casting long, distorted shadows across the swamp's glassy surface. She held her breath, waiting for the red sensor eye to pierce the darkness and lock onto her position. But the night remained perfectly, beautifully still. Slowly, the moonlight shifted, illuminating a patch of floating duckweed and rippling water. The natural debris aligned into a familiar, smeared geometric distortion. It was the blurred QR code, rendered not in glowing pixels or wet paint, but in the chaotic, organic geometry of the swamp. The dark web legend had followed her to the very edge of the physical world, projecting its final trap onto the water itself. Chloe stared at the watery pattern, her heart rate finally beginning to slow to a normal rhythm. She reached into her soaked pocket, her fingers brushing the empty space where her phone used to be. The shattered glass and dead battery were buried deep under the work table. The digital tether was completely gone. The realization washed over her, colder and clearer than the swamp water. The ghost was not hunting her, it was hunting her signal. The algorithmic mimicry, the live feeds, the countdown, they were all parasitic, feeding on the continuous stream of data she had willingly broadcasted. Without her digital footprint, the trap was entirely inert. The blurred code on the water was just a trick of the light, a meaningless reflection of her own paranoia. "The signal is dead," she murmured, her voice barely carrying over the gentle lapping of the tide. She plunged her bare hands into the thick, decaying mud, letting the physical reality of the earth ground her. The smell of salt and rotting vegetation filled her lungs, replacing the sterile ozone of her fried electronics. She had lost her online life, her designs, her connections, but she had starved the digital ghost. Chloe waded toward the distant, faint glow of the coastal highway. She was physically exhausted, her clothes heavy with swamp water, but her mind was entirely her own. The neon-lit isolation of her apartment was gone, replaced by the quiet, haunting peace of the natural world. She walked out of the mangroves, forever offline, but finally free. Her sneakers squelched against the asphalt shoulder of the coastal highway, the rough tar grounding her in a reality no screen could replicate. The distant hum of a passing freight truck vibrated through the soles of her shoes, a steady, analog rhythm that drowned out the phantom whine of the drone. She pulled her damp jacket tighter against the salty breeze, watching the ordinary headlights sweep across the dark water. The digital ghost was trapped in the network, starving in the dark, while she walked forward into the quiet, unscripted dawn.